And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Bookish Moment. I'm Sarah Burr.
I am J.C. Kenney, and Sarah, I am so fired up today because we're going to talk about cats. And that this, y'all know me, I'm a total cat guy, and so this is just like the greatest, bookish moment ever in the history of history. So I'm going to stop babbling, otherwise I'll take up the whole 30 minutes. Sarah, I think it's time to get bookish.
Indeed. And I think that the way that you just said that, JC, reminded me, I just saw it on social media this past weekend, but a long time ago, there was a viral video of this woman. She was doing her first eHarmony like dating video, and she's saying how much she loves cats, and she starts getting emotional, and it's like one of my favorite internet videos of all time. So I think that would like perfectly set the mood for
Yes.
today's conversation, because we are joined by the delightful Chris Abernathy, who is here to enlighten us as to how the idea of writing a cozy mystery series told from the point of view of a cat came to be, and how much fun he must have with creating the world of Paradise Cove in the Detective Whiskers Cozy Mysteries. But before we get there, I want to make sure that we learn a little bit more about Chris's history, maybe what got him into writing. So Chris, again, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
We'd love to know a little bit about you. Set the stage for us on what got you interested in writing and storytelling, and what drew you to the cozy mystery genre.
Well, I grew up in basically a library. My mother collected books to an extent that was probably not healthy. She started a library at our church, and it was just books were everywhere. And so I actually started writing my first book when I was 11 years old. We were living in Scotland at the time. My mother was British. And then I kind of set that aside, never finished that book, which is a good thing. Um, and then telling stories through radio and television and campfire stories as a guide for campers and such throughout the years. And finally got around to writing my first book. I guess it's been getting close to a decade ago now.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So one of the things about that is, so you said you started writing about a decade ago, but before the show, you were telling us that you kind of also got into writing a little bit of a roundabout way because your voice, you have this great kind of gritty, kind of old timey Western voice. Who also happens to maybe you do some non-human voices too. So could you maybe talk a little bit about your voice work and how that dovetails into Detective Whiskers and his crime fighting?
Yeah, I spent most of my career in radio and did some voiceover work for commercials and whatnot. And then somebody asked me one day if I would narrate their audiobook. And I said, sure. Didn't know what I was getting into. But it worked out pretty well. And I've done about 300 audiobooks
Wow.
now, I think.
Holy
Um,
smokes.
Whoa.
it is quite a few. Um, so while I was narrating other people's books and getting to actually converse with the authors and realizing, hey, wait a minute, these are real people and they're publishing these books, and I learned some of the industry from them and realized, you know what? I can actually do this. I'd forgotten that it was something that could really be done. Um, and so they inspired me to write. And I started out my first book that I wrote. Since I'd spent so much time in radio, I wrote a book about some a radio morning show. And honestly, that was more therapy than anything else. I put all the people I'd ever worked with in there in some degree, and worked out a whole bunch of stuff that way. Um, it was not a book that was ever going to sell many copies, but it did help me discover a little bit about who I really am. I thought I could be a little bit edgy. Here we got this rock morning show that's doing all the things I could never get away with on my radio shows. Um, but as I'm writing that, I'm realizing, that's not, I'm not edgy. I'm not an edgy guy. I enjoy watching some edgy stuff and reading some, But the content I want to put out into the world, I want to put out content that makes people feel good. And when you realize that about yourself, you start looking, okay, well, if I want to actually write seriously, put out some books that I can maybe not get rich off of, but I can have some income off of, and legitimize the time that I spend writing them. Um, I need to write something that's the voice that I'm really tuned into, the voice that I want to put out into the world. And so that's how I discovered the cozy mystery genre from this side.
The fact that the voice you then chose from there was the voice of a cat. I need to know the thought process, because there's for folks who may not have come across your books before, I'm sure that they would maybe be like, oh, like that's an interesting, like, what would a cat sound like? Would it be something that's a bit too fanciful for my liking, or too whimsical, or what have you? But the way that you have crafted Detective Whiskers is so human, and there's just something other. I don't know how to describe it other than magical, because of the fact that we are. I mean, at least I was completely invested in him as a character and like as a detective, probably by like the second paragraph of the book. So how did you make that decision? And was it something that you were hesitant to do because it is very, very different? Or was it something that you were like, you know what, this is the voice that I want to bring into the world?
Well, like JC, I'm a cat guy. I love cats. I grew up with cats. I don't actually have a cat in my house, and I've always wanted to get another cat, but my wife has a veto power, and we've had dogs for the last 21 years, and I love the dogs, but I miss the cats. I'm an uncle to a couple of cats,
There we go.
so that works out okay for me. But um, when you're writing in the cozy mystery genre, you know that the majority of the audience is going to be female, and the readers are, and generally speaking, you're going to have your human characters are mostly going to be focused on female characters. And I like to be as honest and authentic as I can possibly be. I think that's the only way to get your best writing out there, whatever creative product you're going to put out there, to be able to create something that's worthwhile. It's got to be authentic and honest. And I can't write a female voice honestly. But what I can do is write a male voice projected into a non-human character who gets to hear the females speaking in a way that other male humans would not. So I thought it would be an interesting way to be able to put my honest, authentic self into the picture with the female characters without being that disturbing male presence, if that makes any sense. I don't mean to push off all men as being disturbing. That's not what I'm trying to say, but it does change the dynamic when a man comes into the room, doesn't it?
It does. And this, the scenes that you have Whiskers observing Sheila with Terry Ann and the friends that she makes in her new life in Paradise Cove, you're so right. You couldn't have those scenes happen if you had, a man just sitting there observing this. And so I think it's such a smart way to approach the storytelling, and it's unique. It's so charming. And before I rattle on more, Chris, I do want to say hi to our wonderful viewers who are joining us live this afternoon. We've got Donna McKenzie saying, hi, Chris. We've got DHBA saying, happy Tuesday. We have Regina the Southernista saying, good afternoon, everyone. And it's nice to meet a new to me author. So, Chris, we've really got to sell Regina on picking up your books this afternoon after the show. We have Farmhouse Reader saying, good afternoon. And we have Susan Worrell saying, hello, everyone. So Thank you guys for being here. If you have questions for Chris along the way, please put them in the chat. And tell us a little bit, Chris, about once you made that decision of, okay, I'm going to create this character that can observe, that could be a male voice, can observe his female companions in an unobtrusive way. How did you form Whiskers' backstory? Because for me, it really made sense as to why he would be interested in solving crimes.
Well, I wish I had a good answer for you. I don't. It just kind of, honestly, a lot
Or
of
maybe
the
tell
ideas that I
our
have,
viewers how it came to be, so that they kind of get a little bit of an idea as to the setup of Paw and Order and why Whiskers is invested in these crimes. Maybe that's a better question.
So the main human character is Sheila, and as we begin the series, there's a prequel that has, goes on before this, but as the series itself begins, Sheila has just been widowed, and I wanted to write a story where we're talking about how I'm a big believer that there are a lot of chapters in our lives, and that we can start a new chapter anytime we want to, and that we should never just think that we've reached the end of our book. I mean, there is an end, but we haven't reached it if we can wonder if it's the end. And so I wanted to tell Sheila's story of beginning this new chapter of her life, and going from where she thinks that she's lost everything to where she realizes that she had a wonderful gift for so long, and that's still with her. And now she's got this new chapter that she can make whatever she wants it to be. And so her husband was a police officer, and they had a family together and spent many years together. And that police officer was the reason that Whiskers came into the household, and he learned the tools of his trade from the police officer before he passed away. So when we get into the beginning of the book, I know you probably don't want to normally start a cozy series grieving and mourning, but that's where Sheila and Whiskers both are. They're both mourning the loss of Fred in different ways, and they both are looking at the next part of their stories differently. Where Sheila's just wondering, okay, am I going to sit here and watch the waves crash until they stop? And Whiskers is wondering, okay, how do I step up and be the man of the house now?
Well, and one of the things that I really love about that, and for what it's worth, Chris, my first cozy mystery also opened with a family grieving over a death. So I hear you that it's a little unconventional, but boy, there's that emotional impact right off the bat. But
And I love it.
Yes, yeah.
I personally, as a reader, I love that. You want something that anchors you in these characters being human, and we all have experienced grief at some point in our lives. And I think that, it's such a beautiful human way to connect us all. So what I had mentioned about feeling like, I was invested in Whiskers like immediately, and it was just because like I felt like, oh gosh, like I feel for you. So yes, I think that it was a great tool for beginning the series. Sorry, Jim.
Oh, no, not at all. So, Chris, one of the things I'd be curious about is you're talking about Whiskers being able to observe unobtrusively. And I wholeheartedly agree with Sarah that, yeah, let's just be honest. Generally, you're not going to have, Sheila and her buds hanging out on the patio, drinking their margaritas, being able to kick back like they do if some guy was hanging around. And so it reminds me a little bit of, what we see and read about in so much like classic British mysteries, where you've got the upper class, you got the upstairs folks, and you got the downstairs folks, and nobody notices the downstairs folks because for the upstairs folks, they're kind of not there. And so that's really where even though Whiskers is a huge, obviously, part of Sheila's life. Just the opening scene in the first book with or not the opening scene, but the first murder. I'm not going to tell you all what happens, folks. You need to go get the book and read it. But it's really interesting the way that Whiskers notices a key fact that none of the humans do. And so I kind of wonder if you could talk a little bit more about the advantages of having that, status as somebody who doesn't necessarily either doesn't get noticed or is dismissed out of hand because he's a cat.
Yeah, and nobody's going to think that a cat is going to foil their grand evil scheme, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't think that's going to happen. They just don't give them the credit. And of course, in the real world, we might think that that's the case. But at least in my world, in Paradise Cove, you dismiss that cat at your own peril. Um, and I think most of us have got a little bit of an element where we feel like at times we've been dismissed. And we feel like we've got a little something to offer the world that other people just haven't noticed. So I think it's very relatable.
And the fact that it adds a layer of complexity to your mystery that maybe we don't normally come across in a cozy mystery itself, because you typically have your amateur sleuth finding things out along the way, and for one thing or another, the police aren't really investigating, or they're not doing what we expect them to be doing. Yet in Paradise Cove, it seems like the police department is very engaged in their mystery solving. It's just that they're kind of going about it in an incorrect manner. And especially with a little bit of a spoiler, but our murder weapon, and how the murder weapon is in the first book is pointing towards Sheila, which is why we also have Whiskers invested in figuring out this crime. Not only does he want to protect Sheila in general, but he's like, man, I've got to clear her name. And the scene where he is brought down to the station, he's put in the cages with Officer Kojak, who is the canine officer on the force, as well as the victim's dog, Buster. That scene I just love because of the different layers of the actual mystery and the clues and how people are figuring things out, because the humans are doing their own thing. Whiskers is doing his own thing. Do you ever find that to be a challenge creatively when you're writing of how do I have the police involved just enough so that everything can be tied up in the end, versus how do I have Whiskers being the one that is finding this information?
Yeah, and then there's the third level of you got Sheila and her friends
Yes.
that are doing their own investigation. So really, in this series, you've got three investigations going on at the same time. You've got the Murder Society, the Paradise Cove Murder Society doing their own thing, Sheila and her human friends. You've got the police doing their investigation, and then you've got the animals led by Detective Whiskers doing the investigation that actually ends up solving the case. But all three of those have to be happening. And of course, there's things that Whiskers will not be able to do as a cat. There are things that he can do that the humans can't, but there's also a lot of things that the humans can do that he can't, regardless of how special a cat he is. So I have to find ways to let the police succeed some in their job, but it has to kind of filter through Whiskers to be able to get to the right result.
Well, and one of the things along that line that I really loved is that you don't take Whiskers or the animals to the point that they're like super animals. Just to kind of Sarah's point again in the first book, this isn't giving anything away, but Whiskers decides he needs to go get from home to the local city dump. For all of us humans, like, okay, I'll just jump in the car or jump on the bike or whatever and go there. Whiskers can't do that. He ends up having to hitch a ride, and it's not just as easy as kind of sticking out his thumb or calling an Uber. So can you talk a little bit about, those unique challenges that, how did you deal with those? And I guess, did you realize you were going to have challenges like that when you started writing the series to begin with?
I probably should have thought it through a little bit better to begin with. Um, I quickly realized that I was going to have those challenges, but every challenge is just an opportunity, and everything that Whiskers can't do on his own is an opportunity for him to be vulnerable with some other character, some other way that he's going to interact with the humans or other animals. So, yeah, sometimes you have to scratch your head a little bit to figure out how you're going to make it work, but it always ends up adding another level of just the personality and the whole makeup of the community.
It's it's so charming and so clever the ways that you have come up to have Whiskers experience this case and be able to go out on his own and do his sleuthing. Oh God, I loved it. And folks, I was fortunate enough to listen to an audiobook copy of Paw and Order, which is book one in the series. And we've got 9 books out. So you've got plenty of books that you
We don't have
get
all
to
the
enjoy.
audiobooks though.
You're working you've got at least in the world of Paradise Cove, folks can you've got plenty of Detective Whiskers to enjoy. Chris, I would love to talk about bringing these characters to life, but first I do want to acknowledge a comment that we have Regina in the chat saying when we were talking about grief as a something that kind of anchors the series at the beginning. Regina says, I think a grieving main character makes them more empathetic in their sleuthing, and she also enjoys going through their grieving journey with them. And I think that is, that's part of the I think a lot of cozy mysteries always start where our sleuth is in a down spot in their life, because you kind of go through that arc of like, okay, I want to rise up and number one, I want to solve this mystery, but I also want to be in a better spot than I was when I began. And I think that so we have Regina saying that that's another good call on the grief as a plot device, but in regards to the actual production of bringing to life Paradise Cove and the different characters that you have, not only are some of the books on audio, but they're done with a full cast. What was the decision to bring all these different characters to have their own voices together, where you as a voice actor, like you've narrated 300 books and could very well just have narrated this whole series yourself. What was it about the full cast production that you wanted to explore and have that be the choice to bring to life these books?
Well, number one, I'm insane. Um, but I've made a lot of friends along the way.
Nice.
I like my friends and I like working with my friends and to be able to let them contribute to my work and give voice to my characters, and for me to be able to make a few new friends and give some opportunities to some of the newer narrators. We had one of the narrators that's in it, Shannon, that just posted the other day. She just got her first contract to do an audiobook for one of the big publishers.
Oh, wow.
So she's very
Cool.
excited about that. And
Yeah.
I've got, multiple narrators in here who've been nominated for the top awards in audiobooks, and to be able to bring them in was really great. It's a lot of work trying to put it all together. It would have been easier to do it myself. But again, getting back to the authenticity of it, me trying to do Sheila's voices and all her female friends, I didn't think I could pull that off authentically. So I knew that I wanted to have some female voices involved. And once I started down it, it just kind of snowballed and turned into a big, big production. And I'm glad that I did. but there's a reason that book three hasn't come out yet. Even though all the voices have been recorded for book three, just putting it all together is a lot of work.
Can
Well,
you
I tell you what,
explain?
yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I just, because I'm just trying to picture, like, how do you weave everything together? Because I'm imagining that everyone records their lines and then you have to sit at a computer and like piece all of these audio files together. Like, how, other than being insane, like, how do you do that?
Yeah, Adobe Audition is the software that I use,
Hmm.
and I've been using it for, since long before it was called that, before Adobe had it, probably before Adobe existed. Um, and it's I've been using it for radio purposes and whatnot, so I'm very familiar with all the technical side of it. So I've got that advantage. Um, but yeah, it's still just a lot of work to get them all together, and it starts with making sure that everybody's on the same page and kind of understands the tone and what we're trying to do, so that the voices do merge well together. It doesn't matter
Wow.
what you do technically if the voices aren't on the same page.
Well, and I tell you what, I just got to say, and unfortunately, we're almost out of time here.
Oh,
But
jeez.
folks, for those of you who either are audiobook fans or maybe are thinking about it, you've got to get these first two books on audio because if for no other reason, yes, Whiskers is amazing, but Zappa is the best voice ever.
Isn't
When I
he?
first heard Zappa, it was like, oh my God, I burst out laughing. He's great.
I got to say, Phil Thrawn is the voice actor that does Zappa. I met Phil. There was a series of books that I auditioned for. I thought this series. I so want to narrate this series, and they didn't pick me. And then I heard Phil Thrawn narrating the series, and thank God they didn't pick me. They got exactly the right guy. He is so good, and I've got to get him on my book. And I did, and I couldn't be happier to have. He's a great guy and an incredibly talented actor.
The performance and like the range that people can do, because if I ever find a narrator that I like to listen to, I will go and see like, okay, what other audiobooks have they done? Because I really love their performance in this one book. But the range of how they're able to manipulate their voice for an extended period of time and keep it up for the whole length of the book, it's just incredible. And I wonder, Chris, do you have, as a voice actor, are you do you stay in like a particular genre, or do you get to explore all different avenues? Is it like just whatever you are interested in, you're doing, or is there something that you like really like to hone in on?
Yeah, I like to do a variety, and I like to do a lot of nonfiction. Honestly, most of what I do is nonfiction. I love to learn while I'm reading. Right now, I'm narrating a history of South Carolina and learning so much about the state of South Carolina that I never knew. When I first started, I uh, I was doing a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction,
Okay.
and I think they thought my voice fit very well with that genre, and it was going well, but I, I didn't like how I felt from doing it. It didn't take me mentally where I wanted to be, so I kind of moved my way out of that, and I still do some of that occasionally. But I try to find things that make me feel better when I'm done working than when I started.
Cool.
Oh, that's
So,
such a cool profession, and like
yeah.
the what you get to explore and experience and learn, absolutely amazing. And most certainly could talk to you for much longer about it, but we are running out of time together with our moment today. So
Boo.
for folks that want to stay connected with you, Chris, what is the best way for them to either follow you online, sign up for a newsletter, website, all of that good stuff?
Yeah, my website is authorchrisabernathy.com. Um, and you can sign up for my newsletter there. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm not as active as I probably should be, but the place where I'm most active is going to be on my Facebook page. But the best thing to make sure if you want to know when I've got a new release or whatever, the newsletter is going to be the best way to do that. And you can sign up there again at authorchrisabernathy.com.
Perfect. Perfect. I love
there you
how,
go.
I
I
love
saw
that.
what you did there.
That is, and oh gosh, that is like another, like the way that you weave all of these little cat jokes in. Oh, it's just so much fun. And it's such a, like a unique series that I think when you set out, you wanted to create something that would bring joy to people, and you do that in droves in this. It's absolutely like a wonderful, wonderful piece, a world that you've created. And thank you so much for coming on here and sharing it with us. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on with both of you.
Oh,
Oh, thank you.
thank you. We want to know, like, what entertains you outside of the work that you do in, the audiobooks that you are creating, and learning from. Do you have a recent book recommendation that you can share with us? A TV show, movie, anything that's brought you some joy in these recent weeks?
What brings me joy on TV is we watch a lot of the British mysteries, but the show that to me is the best television show of the millennium so far is Ted Lasso. And
Yes.
every season, even when the first season, I saw the character before there was ever a show. They had some promos on NBC for the English Premier League with the character. And I thought, they can't make a whole show out of this. It's not going to work, but I'll watch it and just see. And it was amazing. And then every season, I'm like, well, they can't possibly. It's peaked. There's no way. And every time they blow me away. So I'm, cautiously optimistic about the next seasons. Like, they keep on doing it. Maybe they can. I just love what that series brings into the world.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yes.
I was a little bit late to the Ted Lasso train. And I was just like, again, blown away by, it's like, I didn't realize that TV could make me feel this good. And it's wonderful. Yeah. Oh, and I'm so glad that they're bringing more. JC, anything new to share with us on the entertainment front?
So, yes, I've been remiss in not mentioning this in earlier episodes. I am totally in love with Star Trek Starfleet Academy.
I was wondering.
Everybody who watches the show knows that I'm a big Trekkie, and it's a real breath of fresh air. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's got a lot of the classic Star Trek feel to it, and I'm just loving it. So that's what I got. How about you, Sarah?
So last night we watched, this one was a abduction documentary, but it was a fake documentary called The Fourth Kind. This is back from, I think, early 2000s. It was Mila Jovovich plays a psychologist that goes to Nome, Alaska to interview these people that are having sleeping problems and memory loss, and everybody's seeing owls outside of their window. And if I didn't know that it was fake, I would have had a really hard time understanding that it was fake. It was one of those types of movies, and it was entertaining. I watched the whole thing without feeling the need to be like, can we just fast forward to the end? So that was always a treat, because these days, if it's not entertaining me, I definitely will fast forward just to see how things are ending. So we've got some Ted Lasso, the new Star Trek Academy, and probably not a lot of people are into alien abduction shows, but if you'd like The Fourth Kind, it's available on Amazon Prime. Chris, again, thank you so much for being here. This was an absolute delight. I know, so book 9, it was a Christmas movie.
Christmas movie mystery.
Yes, Christmas movie mystery. We have a movie that's getting filmed in Paradise Cove. We've got Christmas themed, which is always fun. Do we have any news about when a book 10 might be joining, or what's next for Detective Whiskers?
I honestly thought I was going to end the series at book 9. I kind of wrap up all the arcs, really, and I thought, okay, I'm done. But people convinced me that I needed to write some more. And I still think I'm probably going to veer out and do a different scene with some of the characters at some point, possibly moving back in time instead of forward, or both. But I do have a Halloween book that will be ready for later this year.
Nice.
Excellent.
That will be book 10 for Whiskers.
You thought you were done, but
They
thank
brought
goodness
me
readers.
back in.
Yes,
They
but thank
did.
goodness readers are persuasive and make you realize how delightful this series and how much joy it brings to people, and we need that in the world. So we're very excited for more. Again, thank you so much for sharing your time with us this afternoon. Thank you to our wonderful viewers who are late. Alma, no worries. You can catch the replay once we end the stream. It'll be here, so you can check out everything that Chris has to share about his amazing audio or voice acting career, as well as how Detective Whiskers came to be. Can't recommend it enough, folks. Available on Amazon. Books 1 and 2 are on audio. Books 1 through 9 are on Kindle Unlimited as well. So if you have a Kindle Unlimited membership, you can snag them. We are back with another show on Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. Our guest is J.H. Marquette, who writes horror. We're going to be talking about his latest book called Dig, but also he has written a screenplay for a movie that has actually been made, and I have to watch it because it has one of my favorite comedian actors in it. So I'm looking forward to it. So we'll see you later this week. But until then, everyone, be well and stay bookish. Bye, folks. Have a good one.
Thank you.